in a number of striking ways. Both were barbaric in their unique traditions. The Spaniards, fired and forged by the Crusades, would pillage and rape and kill in the name of God and country, subsuming indigenous cultures with little respect for their centuries of existence. The Aztecs used military force and violence to subjugate independent neighboring tribes and performed rites of human sacrifice and cannibalism. Neither could comprehend the other, and neither was willing to acquiesce. Both were uncompromisingly devoted to expanding their already considerable empires, and each was under the guidance and tutelage of a great leader. The most significant of all the conquistadors, Hernan Cortes was a late bloomer, arriving in the New World in 1504. He lived in relative anonymity for over a decade before asserting himself in the political scene of the West Indies colonies, by which time he was in his early 30s. Born in 1485 in Medellin, Spain, site of castles and strongholds used in the last efforts of the Reconquista, the expulsion of the Moors after 700 years of occupation, Hernan was the son of Martin Cortes, a low-level hidalgo, not overly distinguished or well-bred, and Doña Catalina Pizarro Altamirano. A frail and sickly child, Cortes began university at age 14 in Salamanca, but returned home bored and distracted after only 2 years. His mind must have been quick and perceptive, however, because his erudition in diplomacy and politics would surface later, serving him well. He studied government, law, and Latin, and would later be described by his secretary, Francisco López de Gomara, as restless, haughty, mischievous, and given to quarreling. Wanderlust filled his heart early on, and in 1503 he was set to join an expedition to the West Indies with Don Nicolas de Ovando. On the eve of his departure, the young rake Cortes was injured, leaping to escape when caught in the house of a married woman. His injury cost him a chance on that ship, and he spent the next year carousing in Spain's rough southern port villages. In 1504, the impetuous young man had earned entry onto one of 5 merchant ships setting sail for Santo Domingo, the bustling capital of Hispaniola and first settlement of the New World. Cortes had for a few years now heard rumors of untold wealth to be garnered in unknown lands, where gold flowed like water from the mysterious mountains. Just 19 and with an adventurer's spirit, having learned to ride as a youth while herding swine, and gleaned the rudiments of cavalry tactics in school and from his father, as well as from the widely popular romances, Hernan Cortes was entirely anonymous and average as he booked passage to the West Indies. He had no way of knowing that in less than 2 decades he would command a Spanish force in one of the greatest assaults in military history and become among the most revered and reviled men in all the world. Cortes's rival had led the Aztec people for nearly 2 decades. The ruler of the Aztec Empire, Montezuma, was born in 1480, just 5 years before Hernan Cortes. Sometimes also referred to as Montezuma II, he was trained as a priest and rose to become the military, spiritual, and civic leader of the Aztecs in 1503, just as Cortes was on the verge of arriving in the West Indies. At that time, the Aztecs controlled most of what is now Mexico and Central America, their capital being the great city of Tenochtitlán, present-day Mexico City. Montezuma was enthroned as the Tlatoani, great speaker, at the great temple built by his own brothers, and his coronation involved an elaborate ritual of bloodletting, self-piercing with bone slivers, the decapitation of 2 quails, and the spraying of their blood on an altar flame. Moody, petulant, even tyrannical, Montezuma was zealously driven by his spiritual beliefs. He was the semi-divine ruler of a devout people whose supreme being was the sun, and whose highly stylized and symbolic religion was driven by seasonal festivals, feasts, and celebrations observed by all members of society. The Aztec religion was an amalgamation of ancient Mesoamerican rites and traditions centered on paying tribute and making offerings to the many gods.